welcome. I am Lo, and I have my glorious co-host here, Sharada, and we're here with Big Venus Energy.
Oh my God, darling, it's been a second.
It has been.
Two of us hung out.
Like a month?
Easily, no?
Yeah. So we
didn't do any January. So when was the last time? I think it's actually been more than a month. I think it's been a month and a half.
Do it January? That's crazy. Well, it's been a long time, and wanted to talk about that a little bit today as we settle in. Winterizing.
We wished each other Happy New Year's for sure on
Yes.
text and everything.
Yes.
But I don't believe we did the whole Happy New Year thing for our
See
Big
this
Venus
hair come
energy.
here. It feels natural to me. So I've been trying not to be hard on myself with how spiritually blocked I feel from pursuing work that isn't my own. And I know this is really a very privileged position to be able to take. It's been 8 weeks exactly, yesterday or 2 days ago. But then I have to think about how spiritual my life was leading up into joining a traditional workforce position and realizing that I got snipped right at the beginning of winter.
Yeah, just before the holiday season.
Right. And then tomorrow actually is the Lunar New Year. And on February 1st is Imbolc, which is an ancient celebration of like the promise of spring. So Bridget is a goddess that they honor on this day, and it is about the promise of spring. So you'll see the buds on the trees. You start seeing in these 60-ish days, where our temperatures are like, wow, this is nice. It's the promise of spring. And so I've been really trying to look at...
So slowly life starts coming out of sort of hibernation.
Absolutely. So it was like winterizing. So I took it as a retraction and calling my energy back.
Maybe that's what you have been doing too, right? It's not a block of spiritual energy. It's not a, people have writer's block, actor's block, all of that stuff. I think it's you needed to re-energize, you needed to recenter, and part of that is sometimes we are hard on ourselves when we don't fit into the mold of what the world not expects, but what the world has created, right? We are a capitalistic society. It just is the civilization. I'm not talking about America. I'm talking about the civilization
global operating.
Exactly. As humans, we created money. Right? We created currency.
And commerce in the way that it is.
Correct.
And
right?
enabled it to be
correct, 100%. But I will tell you, this too shall pass.
Yes.
Okay. I've had several moments in my life where in a graph, if you're plotting monetary earnings or having a job of sorts as a progression, major dips, right? I'm 43. This is 2024.
We're so grateful.
I'm still alive. The first dip happened in 2006. Okay, I had moved to the US in 2002.
Okay.
Studied, got a job and all of that kind of stuff. But in 2006, end of it, I'm like, I am not getting fulfilled at this tech job that I thought would be oh my God, what a difficult door to get into kind of job.
Right.
And all of 2006, I was just like, this is not working, blah, blah, blah. And I quit November of 2006. And it was very clear even from my manager that I wasn't present, I wasn't giving. And I was like, you're not wrong. I'm quitting. I'm going to figure out my next steps. I had just applied for business schools. I had not received confirmation, nothing. You don't receive it until like March or April or May kind of thing, right? November I quit. And yes, I had the fortunate support of financial support of my husband, but at the same time, my husband, who also is very much part of, hey, this is what the world expects and you need to work kind of thing, was like, whoa, what happened? You could have just persevered through it until you started business school. And I'm like, it was draining me so much that I was hating myself. But I would, because of the world we live in, where the expectations were set a certain way, validation set a certain way, you were educated with bachelor's and master's, and I was then beating myself up for the fact that I didn't have a job.
Right. It's such strong conditioning to feel that the only way that you can feel like productive and like you're on the right path is if you are working and earning even more. So we have this exponential growth expectation, right? Because that's what we largely see. Business is driven by growth and exponential opportunities for growth. And there's no real accounting for it, at least in business and how capitalist operations are, for those ebbs, for the regrouping, for the, okay, we did this for as long as we can, something has to change. And we see that. You can't go straight forever. You have to detour, you run into water, whatever happens. There's no road you can travel down forever.
Why our bodies need sleep.
Yes, absolutely.
Same
Everything
principle.
is a cycle.
Correct.
It's interesting that we're talking about this because Ari, my daughter, is
gorgeous.
growing. Yes, it's breathtaking.
Inside and out. Oh my God. Gorgeous.
Tremendous. She's been struggling a lot though.
Gorgeous people struggle now because...
She's angry because there's so many young men who keep telling her girls can't do things.
Oh my.
To the point where she will come home some days and talk about, I don't want to be a girl.
Oh my God.
Because
it is the best thing though. Come on, we
I
are
know.
the fruit of life. We are the creator of life. We are the tree of life. So who are these men that she has encountered in her life that are telling her?
Classmates. These are classmates.
What did they say?
And
What did they
peers.
say?
Girls can't play basketball, which we know. We have so many gorgeous demonstrators and powerhouses of women in basketball. And so that's easy for me to show her that that's not true. But then you also have a case that's happened in the last few years where a young woman beat one of her friends at basketball and he shot her 2 times because he couldn't handle losing to a woman, or
shot her as in fire, like guns.
She's dead.
Oh my!
It's that serious. Okay, so it's. I don't like to maybe be so dramatic in drawing allusions from certain behaviors and beliefs, but that had to be so deep seated in him to not ever be,
outshined by
yes.
And you can see this pattern. I was literally looking up before you came and rang the bell at home. I'm trying to help people on my team gain a whole lot more self-awareness.
Okay.
And you can see lashing out when ego is bruised.
Oof, yes.
And you see it so much more with men.
Yes. Nothing quite as fragile.
And why we as a society have inflated men's egos so much, and we women girls have to acknowledge that we have very much participated in doing that.
Yes, softening in our deliveries in anticipation of that, right?
And reducing our egos to accommodate for their fragility.
Absolutely.
I want to sit and talk to Ari about it. Like, I really am like, it's so sad you have to show her examples to prove something a kid is telling, and she is no male, unless you're going to seriously go through attachment surgery, can produce life.
Yes. Well, it's interesting. So trans men are the only men, so go them, that can give life. But to then have her come to me in the same amount of days in space and be like, when I start my moon cycle, I want to have a party. And I've always read about menarche parties. I have to do more research on it. Right.
Shall we throw a party?
I want to, yes.
Okay,
and
invite
women and young women and people, to talk about menzies.
Yes, we should go find a good location and throw the party.
I have to just start. She just brought it up last week, so
cool.
Research.
Yes.
And also wanting to talk about the different period panties and different period products.
Yes.
I have done run the gamut on different feminine hygiene products. I've used the entire spectrum of things that are out there for bleeding.
Keep talking. I just want to make sure we are actually recording. And I didn't mess this stuff up.
Are we on?
Yes.
Beautiful.
11 minutes.
Okay, so
so funny. Everybody's looking into this, especially moms of girls having to look into this at this time. Yes, absolutely.
So for a long time after I became a parent, I went really hard into all natural products.
Okay.
So deodorants. There were times that I, in order to detox, I totally only used like vinegar based anythings. And then I started trying to see what was out there that people who weren't stay-at-home moms could use, because there's something to be able to be a little more open and free with your hygiene products if you're not in close proximity to other people often, if you're at home and you're at your restroom often. But what's good for the environment, like I stopped shaving my legs and started making sugar wax because I was trying to create less waste. I'm trying to be more conscious. And so I had Honest Company diapers. I didn't do the reusable diapers. I'm sorry, it was too big of an investment for us at the time. But Honest Company.
It's also a pain in the ass time-wise too. I tried it and I'm like, oh my god, it's too much.
It was too much for me.
Honest Company did some. Their nighttime diapers were lifesavers.
Yes, I loved Honest.
Fantastic.
We never had diaper rash ever. And that was really great. But I bought Thinks underwear, and then I was a part of a class action lawsuit settlement that I didn't know about, didn't really participate in. But because there were harmful materials
in Thinks
period
underwear?
panties. Yeah.
I was considering buying Thinks and I shouldn't.
Well, so that lawsuit happened years ago. They've already settled.
Okay.
So they had to change things. But now you have options. You can go to Walgreens and buy period panties now.
Oh.
And I think that's great.
Yes.
I've tried sea sponges. Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and you're supposed to, you squeeze them out. You can make your own panty liners, and typically you would wear a panty liner. If you were using the sponge, obviously, because if it becomes too saturated, you will have leakage. The discs, I've used the cups, the different kinds of cups.
Only pads and tampons here.
Really? I hear you. There's a convenience thing.
No, I'm just so fucking lazy.
Yeah.
It's too much effort.
It is effort.
It is a lot of effort to try so much stuff.
It truly is. And because it's such a sensitive system.
It totally is. That much I can tell you. It dries out the shit there.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And just the hormones. So it's thrown me into bringing up all of my old journals and things that I learned, because I got so far from it since moving back to Texas. I'm gonna be glaringly honest. It's been really interesting because it's more conservative here. Because I was working with our older populations, I couldn't be as unconventional openly and be successful. So to have her kind of bring me back to that again is really powerful. She knows where we're at.
It is heartbreaking to hear you grew up in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
You left Texas for a reason.
Yes, 12 house placements included.
Correct. Right? And you came back to Texas for a reason. And yet you feeling this self-compromised to come back and struggling with it. And you know, you're slowly getting back to no matter where I am gonna figure out the way to be myself kind of thing. It's a journey, right? Because you were in a place where you didn't feel that pressure of conservatism or whatever that is, right?
It's that expectation to accommodate in my family.
And you live with your mom, and maybe that's part of the thing too, right? I mean, I can relate because I left India feeling pretty suffocated in certain areas that I couldn't explore, let alone figure out how I wanted to be. I couldn't even feel allowed to explore.
And it's not that you necessarily always want to share what you're exploring with everyone or have them be invested in it. The question of like, what are you doing and why are you doing it?
That's the, you know, we have talked about this many times here, and it's coming back to the same exact thing. We think we need to understand somebody's actions and why they are taking to even fucking tolerate it.
Right, to respect it at all. Yeah.
Tolerate it. There is no respect even that comes afterwards.
Okay,
just
true.
even tolerating it. We can't even tolerate you wanting to. I try my level best not to shave my legs during winter.
I try.
And I have a fortunate husband who would never tell me. He was actually like, why do you need to shave? Kind of guy, right? But we don't even tolerate. So I was on the plane coming back, and we landed in Dallas, and the cheer came out like, hey, the pilot was a Chiefs fan.
Okay.
All right, so hey, all the Chiefs fan, let's go, let's get this thing. And you know, the guy sitting next to me, I walked into the plane with a Taylor Swift magazine.
Oh, okay.
Not a Swiftie. I really like her, what she's done. I think the impact she's had, and she's a genius when it comes to music creation and lyrics and all of that stuff. But there was a magazine created. She's released like 10 albums. She is 30 freaking 4. Okay, and every album is like a chapter in her life kind of thing. So that magazine was about each of those chapters, and I wanted to read it. I wanted to just learn a little bit more. And I brought it in. The moment I entered the plane, the one of our flight attendants, he's like, oh my God, yay, Swiftie. And I'm like, I will totally finish this magazine and I will give it to you. I gave it to him, right? But the guy sitting next to me, after I had given the magazine, we were all about to disembark and whatever. He's like, I don't even know what Taylor Swift is trying to do with this, participating in the whole NFL thing. Like, she's such a distraction. And I'm like, why is this? And I'm a very calm person nowadays, right? And I'm going to trademark radical honesty with radical kindness.
Okay.
I'm going to make sweatshirts.
I will wear one.
Right? And we're going to create that as a parent company and everything else coming from it. But I'm practicing this after some intense thing that I went through. So, and I asked him, what about her joining NFL or being part of the NFL thing is bad? All the attention. I mean, she's not competing in any way. This is sport versus music. But what about it is frustrating for you? Why is it even hard for, why? What is offending you? What is triggering you?
Yeah.
He got calm. The guy was emotional. He got calm. I don't know. It's not that bad. And like, it's just not necessary. I get it. There are celebrities who come. But why this level of anger towards her coming and supporting. I don't think she asked for it.
Right.
It's the rest of the word. And why are we having difficulty tolerating? That's the word I use because I wanted to eventually get it. He's like, I've never thought about it that way. And I used an analogy. I used the analogy that you can't begin to understand why a baby is crying if you can't tolerate a baby crying in the house. So what is the opposite of toleration? Intolerance.
Right.
If you can't tolerate a baby crying, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to throw the baby out, or you're going to throw yourself out. Like, aka remove yourself from the situation. So you first and foremost have to tolerate a baby crying. What comes after tolerating the baby? You have to accept a baby is going to cry. It doesn't know to communicate. There is something possibly happening. So you need to accept a baby is going to cry. That takes you to a next level of calmness. Only then can you take a moment to put effort into why it might be crying.
Right, assessing.
Which is the starting point of understanding. Is it hungry?
Right.
Did it get bit by something? Is it pooping? Is it tired?
Right.
We can't get, so we have created, especially parents. This is to parents everywhere. Because you are the starting point of any human being's interaction and expectation of what a human child needs to feel validated. If you keep telling your child that you won't accept what they say or do without you understanding them, that is very much opposite of how a human can evolve.
It's true.
They don't probably understand why they are. A child crying, do you think understands what? They can't communicate.
No, it's just something.
Adults, you can't communicate.
It's interesting when we compare it to like being babies, because that's the level of naivety that is there, and we see it, and we've talked about it a ton, where older generations of masculine energies were not given the capacity to have any other type of emotion, and that was safe to express other than anger. So any emotion or any stimulus that makes them uncomfortable, the default instead of crying is anger, right? And so then only when we question it and we ask them to explore it further are they able to kind of distill it into where on the emotional wheel it lands. And a lot of times they don't have the capacity to fully express what it's stemming from. I'm just angry.
Correct.
And my whole wheel is angry.
The two expression of emotions that are literally right next to each other is crying and anger.
Anger and sadness, yeah.
They're literally right next to each other.
That's why you will cry after you get really angry sometimes.
Correct. And so what have we built in our civilization as humans? We built a narrative, and we taught, and not just taught, we reprimanded boys when they cried. So as a child, as a baby, you cried. But the moment around 2 years of age and the baby is now a toddler, boys don't cry. So what did they transition to?
Yeah.
Anger.
Right.
That is why you have the two tantrums. That is, like, you have all of these things and they continue. So there wasn't an emotional letting go. There wasn't a, hey, when a baby cries, oh my God, baby, I'm there for you. And somebody gets angry, do we ever comfort them?
We stay away.
And we shame them. They feel shamed. It creates more anger.
I'm guilty of some of that.
We all are. We cannot, unless we see it.
Like, it's
and
not that big of a deal
understand
to
it.
me. So it's
Right. But if it's so ingrained in you, I used to have, my dad has had a temper. It's actually reduced significantly in his old age. And I used to think I took that from him.
Oh, interesting.
Right, as a DNA thing. So I used to have a temper. And I used to get, my temper usually would be, literally get quickly to crying. Right? My anger would quickly manifest to crying. But it has taken me turning 43 and all of actually becoming a parent. And slowly evolving myself. My gosh, we have to self-analyze ourselves because change at a 8 billion level can't happen unless it starts with every single one. Raindrops come together for a downpour and a storm.
It's true. And you know, even just a few inches of rains can overwhelm a society. San Diego recently has been really struggling with flooding. It's interesting because every day we grow. As a person, and I'm gonna bring it back into the monarchy parties, the things that I want to give people perspective on and create more what's called body literacy. There's a woman I follow on Twitter who's done a lot of reproductive research and work, especially in the new landscape that's going to become really hostile towards women. It's already becoming that way.
It already was. It hasn't changed
You
much.
need to learn body literacy. She's on Twitter. She has webinars and classes and ebooks. I'm gonna say learn body literacy, and she learns charting, and you get to know your cycle. So I can tell you that there are, if I see a powerful performance, I'm gonna choke up.
Yes.
There are songs that I cannot sing without choking up. But when I'm hormonal, I will burst into tears. That to me is a little humbling. To literally have to cup my hand over my face and like sob into my hand, all from just a video. That wasn't even that serious. So I want that awareness.
During that menstrual period and our hormones helping us, we are opening the door for our vulnerability emotionally a whole lot more.
Yes.
How wonderful it is, because you cannot be vulnerable without bravery, and you cannot be brave without vulnerability. Brené Brown, brilliant, right? She's studied this, military, like men who fight wars, right, have said, there is fear in being brave. There is vulnerability in being brave. And it takes a lot of bravery and vulnerability right now for you to come back to, in Texas, living in your mom's house, to try to get to a place where you can embrace those aspects of you that you had locked away for outside of Texas.
Well, it's really curious, and we come on here and we talk about big Venus energy, and you know how much I love astrology, and it helps me make sense of my life. So when I moved back to Texas, I was in the last couple of years of what are called Pluto transits. And I won't get into the specifics of what they were, but they were all in my first house. That's where Pluto sits for me. But I was going through these very serious transformational periods in time. And lessons associated with Pluto are death and transformation, alchemy. It's really romantic when you think about it. It's not glamorous when you're going through it. It's like you got done eating your entire humble pie and here's a whole fresh batch for you. I know you just got done with this, but and I like to look at this period as something to do with that. And then having my sun signs and everything in my 12th house, it means that I'm supposed to leave home. And home's not necessarily always a place. In this case, you know, there are places in Texas where I feel, and it's such a large state, so it's not surprising, where I feel more uninhibited, where I feel more accepted and inspired.
Here, being one of those places.
Yes, with you. But
I will take that myself
right,
because she didn't point it out.
Yes. But you know, I am going to have to change that. And I know there's a part of my mother that feels wounded that I have to leave the nest in order to flourish. And I can't take that from her. I know it would hurt my feelings, but I've accepted that. I have to be away from home in order to fully let go of my people pleasing, to fully let go of the what should I do voice in my head versus what do I want to do and where can I go and grow. Because the should gets really loud sometimes, and it really starts to, I'm very vulnerable to absorbing.
We should have a conversation with your mom. If, you know, you are open to it and she's open to it, because there are aspects of this that, you know, just even allowing her to, somebody else needs to sometimes ask the question, why is this hard for you to tolerate?
And I know some of it.
And I totally am, but voicing it out. So the person I was talking to on the plane, right? A traditional conservative person who came from Jacksonville, Florida, the Bible Belt, right? And yet, within 5 minutes of that conversation, the person was calming down because I wasn't.
Meeting.
Yeah. No, I wasn't poking. I wasn't. What is the word I'm looking for? I wasn't shaming.
Right. You weren't like directly
Correct. I was not putting them on defense.
Right.
I was very clearly, I could see they were offended. So I wasn't like, oh, you're offended, which is why they were being defensive of the Taylor Swift thing. And I'm like, I don't need to get defensive of that either, right? It would be interesting to sit and have that conversation with your mom. She hasn't obviously gone to therapy or family therapy. So without doing that, there could be but you leaving, I think it's tough for you too, no?
Only that I feel responsible towards her.
Exactly.
That's
because you don't want to. You feel probably, tell me if I'm wrong here, some sense of responsibility in having hurt her, even though you're doing it for the right reasons. You can't avoid, you're not intending to hurt her. However, your actions, for whatever reason she is choosing to be intolerant of it, which converts to feeling hurt, which points out sometimes our own internal inadequacies.
Well, because it's really complex. So there was, Ari is biracial. So there are some times that she lashes out at me because of some of the rhetoric that we have used with her regarding her heritage, just my background. I like to acknowledge and put this very blatantly, and a lot of people try and soften it for me. But there is a violence in my existence by existing here already. The implicit, like what I did 23andMe, I am all the way European. Okay, I just want you all to know, all the way. Like there is not even a trace of not even the suggestion of
something else.
Yes, I'm not of this land.
I am 100% Indian.
Yeah. No, but I am the violence. Like I didn't realize how French German my background was. I was raised Italian.
Oh wow.
Yes.
How funny.
Yeah, well, my mother is very Italian. Her father, they all came over from Italy.
Got it.
But that was the hard part because the French, German, Irish conglomeracy that has happened on my maternal grandmother's side is all very fair complected, white, blonde hair, blue eyes. They're from Georgia. So there are ties to really violent colonizer, settler, white family things that happen in America. And Ari being indigenous, you know, we talk about it. When my mother was raised, none of her sisters, so she's got two sisters, a younger and an older, none of them have the same father. But her older sister and her younger sister are blonde hair and blue eyed.
Your mom is not.
No.
Your mom is dark haired.
Dark hair, olive skin, brown eyes, an hourglass shape that
more voluptuous.
Yes. And because of that, and because her father was abusive and why he wasn't a part of their life, so there was a lot of anger and resentment that my mother looked so much like the Italian side. And so she was
ostracized, unaccepted,
right,
shamed,
absolutely, and abused severely, violently.
Yes, physical, and then you have the psychological, emotional, hereditary kind of element. Yeah, this is a lot.
And it affected her. So she has a hard time, and she's very triggered when she's only seen as a white woman. And it's because and so many people bring this up, is that white supremacy doesn't stop at discrimination against people of color. It's if you have any color.
Yes.
If your hair is brown, if your eyes are brown, you are still tinted, and you will always be questioned about your purity and your cleanliness as a human, as a part of a master race, which is very violent. And I think it's really important to address those white supremacist notions all the time, because as it was hard for me to convince my mother that she had white privilege, because she never felt privileged. And it took a long time for me to break through to her, to get her to conceptualize that while her life has been violent and poverty stricken, and she's been a survivor of so many different kinds of violence and cancer, that there was privilege in who she was solely because she was white. She had a lot more opportunities. She had a lot more people willing to help her.
Totally.
She had the ability to have crazy, hysterical, angry bursts in public and not be arrested or shot.
Correct.
There were so many allowances.
And that is in the modern world. Okay.
Yes.
Not to, one cannot be humble if one does not acknowledge their privilege.
Absolutely.
Which is where you are very much grounded and humble, and
you just have to be able to see it and address it and not be defensive of it. So my mother's not there. It caused a huge. She went in, so that was her breakthrough. She finally came out and was able to address the fact that she's angry and this is why. And then it went so much further, because then she started giving me the background about her childhood and about why she's so angry and how she wasn't protected. And it's been really big. So I think that my presence is sometimes uncomfortable, because I do bring about illuminating things that are wrong and disrupting things, and it's been hard for me to feel like that's helpful until now.
So have you felt guilty about being white?
Do I feel guilty?
Have you felt? I don't know whether you still feel it, but have you felt guilty? Because you just mentioned how you had to tell your mom, and you still talk about it, how that white privilege had helped her not face certain kind of consequences in certain kind of situations. So have you felt guilty about the privilege you have?
Absolutely.
Given you are white.
So, some more background on me is when I graduated high school, I not only was an EMT, but I coached competitive cheerleading. And this was in a small town.
Coached? This is the
Yes.
first time
I was a cheerleader. I was an all-American cheerleader, but from a small school. And so in this small town, a competitive cheerleading gym was started. It's such a funny story. I ended up that's where I found out I had a stress fracture in my back because I was coaching tumbling for people who were way bigger than me. But I was starting to be in charge of choreographing hip hop routines. Okay, now I want you to look at me. Understand that this is a rural town in Texas, but all of the material that we were learning and all of these, you know, moves that you will see in competitive cheerleading that are really kind of taking over hip hop level dances are rooted in hip hop. I don't necessarily feel like there are very many white bodies that should be paid to teach others elements of hip hop.
Why?
Because hip hop traditionally is an African American. It was birthed from that.
So?
But the reason I was getting paid to teach it is because they were more comfortable with me, a white body, teaching their children how to gyrate their hips and pop it than they would be to pay one of my cohorts. I had so many black cheerleaders that could have, and were better dancers than me, that could have done that.
You're hitting the nail on you acknowledging your privilege,
Right.
but it's also so laden with guilt and so laden with what is the word I'm looking for?
But it was me given a space that
You felt
I could have given to someone who's more deserving to be in that space.
No, you are also deserving to be in that space, okay? Y'all, first and foremost.
I never studied it though.
Yeah.
There's just,
I'm a brown woman, Indian woman, who's gonna be quite probably the out of the norm in saying this. Stop with the freaking cultural misappropriation conversation. We are a human society. I'm going to address a few different things you've said overall, and we're going to come back to this. This whole guilt of an we are overly trying to correct with acknowledgement of the violence of the white race and the white supremacy, okay? Violence has been part of human civilization across every races,
not wrong.
okay? Genghis Khan and the Chinese,
totally.
okay? The Indian emperors,
Oh yes.
okay? Egyptian wars. So
Absolutely. Historic.
even indigenous.
Okay. Absolutely.
So the more current historical written things are far more about the white aspects of violence and colonization, but this isn't a new thing, and we cannot put it all on white people, okay, or on the white race. I think it is very toxic for us not to relate to the fucking fact that as human beings, we took to violence because it started with us wanting to survive in the wild, then wanting to protect our spaces and our tribe, then wanting to expand it because the spaces and the areas we were in could not feed the tribes we had, and so we had to seek shit out, including the reasons why the British explored further, because beyond a point, even the British Empire could not figure out feeding thing to their own tribe and what. So, guys, can't overcompensate it, okay? You gotta forgive yourself and other people, for fuck's sake. Stop acting you are better than others, okay? Now coming to the cultural misappropriation. You had a difficult childhood.
Yes.
Sad that, now you know differently. Doesn't mean you need to step away from having the love for, as well as the love for teaching, as well as love for hip hop and whatnot. It is not just for black culture. I completely agree. I will give you all credit that it came from there, okay?
Yeah.
But Indian food, please, if you can cook.
Yeah.
But if you can cook Indian food in certain ways better than me, please teach me.
Right.
I have no problem with it. What is happening with us not wanting to explore other cultures and saying this is mine, don't, it is not going to make us better human beings. It is actually going to make us worse human beings.
I have a deep reverence for teaching, and so I do feel that
You a lovely teacher.
I am, but I wasn't. Let me tell you, there are so many. I could not. I don't have the proper vocabulary or even dance move archival to be able to have ever called myself a purveyor of hip hop. I knew about it. I appreciate it, but that was the first time that I realized that I was given a platform to teach without being qualified, and it was just blatant because of the way I was shaped, the way I could move, and the fact that
You're of the skin color.
yes, that I was given that position in that town. It didn't last long. Obviously, I broke my back and I had to leave it completely alone. But it was the first, you realize some things. I also didn't get asked to come back and coach because I was 17, 18. I graduated early.
Smart
And I went to a spring break. My very first and kind of only reckless spring break trip to South Padre Island.
Still haven't done a reckless spring break ever.
Oh, well.
I've had other reckless stuff, just not spring break.
Thankfully, it wasn't like Girls Gone Wild type stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it was. It just wasn't that website.
No, yeah.
And this one got shut down. But I ended up being the cover banner of one of these websites.
Come
with
on,
my
embrace
roommates.
it,
With my roommates.
embrace
So this is
it.
how it went. We got there. We took a stowaway that happened to be my friend at the time, soon-to-be sister-in-law, and she was messy. And she had met these people that were getting us VIP passes in all the bars, and we're underage, and we're drinking, and we're underage, and even to the point we were at the MTV beach party, drinking Rockstar and Grey Goose that belonged to Vanilla Ice at the time, who's also a Texan. He's way too old to have been hanging out with us.
You got story of hanging out with Vanilla Ice.
Anyways, we got paid $100 to have a topless whipped cream fight
Whoa.
with each other.
$100
And listen, we
for
were
a 17-year-old.
poor, yes.
100, yeah.
And we were getting free booze. It was spring break. Anyway, so there's me on the top banner, covering myself, screaming. I have whipped cream everywhere. But it turned into such a salacious rumor because we came back. The girl that stayed with us had gained a substantial amount of weight. And so it was a bragging thing of like, here's what my body looked like. I'm built like me now because I've always been thicker. I'm not now, but I was thicker then. And she told everyone. No one knew about it. And then everyone found out about it, including the cheerleading coaches, including parents, including my younger brother in high school. I got shamed so severely by my mother.
And it starts, there lies again, parents, it starts at home, and you got to be the most psychologically safe space for your children. You gotta. And I do my level best nowadays not to let anger be the forefront of my feelings, but let's look at the hypocrisy of the double standard and the level of expectation. A man walks around without a t-shirt, no biggie, all the time.
Right.
A woman covered in whipped cream is more problematic than a man walking around with a t-shirt. Why are you putting us in this expectation pedestal? And why are you so happy, men and women out there, to knock that pedestal off so easily?
How dare you celebrate your body? How dare you be open and free with it?
You should celebrate your body, however, only in these constraints.
Right. So it was curious.
Oh my God.
I was so shunned and labeled after that because then it was obviously I'm a porn star.
Obviously. But you better be making that kind of money though.
it didn't happen that way, but that was what I was labeled as.
But if you had gone to Swimsuit Illustrated,
oh,
that would be celebrated.
Totally.
Yes. Playboy, shamed. Swimsuit Illustrated, celebrated.
Totally. And it's such this weird double standard. I was also raised by a mother who was very sexual in front of me. It just wasn't for me. That was a thing that she did. It wasn't for me. It's why I have my big tattoo of a woman on my side. But I remember her being so proud of her breasts. Mind you, it's very complex. Didn't know we were going so feminine today. But my entire family has like very large breasts. And I don't know if you can tell. I don't.
I can't tell. She's very little. I know her well enough to know she's talked about her lack of boobs last time, and we compare the two. But she has a booty I don't have. Like,
yes, exactly. Okay, so anyways, I've always had a really big wagon and no boobs. So my mother was so proud. She had a reduction. She had very large breasts. That she had a reduction, but they were still massive, and she used to show them to people because they stand up by themselves, is what she would say.
So proud of the fact that it doesn't sag.
Look at them! And I remember her showing people her breasts all the time, and I know that's...
So she did things that however she would not want you to do. So she was leading a life that she didn't think you should emulate.
Right.
Y'all, parents again, you gotta lead the life you want your children to emulate.
Absolutely. And so that's what informed my parenthood of, Ari sometimes still gets uncomfortable if I dress like a little more sexy. Like if I show cleavage, she's totally thrown off. She's like, why are you showing that? She's confused by it. But I remember lingerie being everywhere, and that's because of her own experiences in life informing how she lived the rest of her life. It kept me from approaching her about starting my period for a few days. We didn't have that dialogue, so me coming through all of that and having being shamed for my body for a large part of my life, being objectified at the same time, because my mother would turn me around to strangers and show them my ass and be like, you see the resemblance? Right. Or, hey, do that dance, where you shake your butt a lot. And I would have to do this in front of people. I was like a performance.
Hip hop to our king.
It's crazy. So it's been so interesting to be shamed for my sexual body
while also being put on display for it.
Right. And then have that be the thing that's celebrated about me the most. And even still I struggle taking ownership of my very goddess-like energy, because a part of my existence is I inspire desire and love, and I'm a Venusian presence in that way. But it's been so hard for me to feel confident in that vessel, in this vessel, as that presence.
Do you still do that? Do you still feel that discomfort to this? I think you're...
I get questioned, or I'll get, some kind of weird comment that'll mess with me about it.
So you get questioned from the outside, you get comments from the outside, but I'm far more interested in your mental inner dialogue. How much are you questioning yourself? How much are you commenting yourself on?
So you know how you have your little inner voices?
Yeah, we have lots of them.
Mine are really invasive. Mine are loud. So I am always questioning.
So how tolerating are you of your own inner voices? Because that's self-criticism. Okay, that's where it starts. If you don't tolerate your inner voices, and you have to tolerate them. If you do not tolerate them, if you keep shutting it out, you cannot get to a place of accepting such voices exist. Unless you accept, you cannot start trying to understand it. Because, my darling, your inner child is asking you to hug it.
Right.
Right, that baby hugging
But this is a very complex issue.
It
And
is.
what, as a woman, how do we take ownership of and help ourselves to feel, I don't know, sexual energy is very important to people, everyone. How are we doing that in a way that isn't, I don't know, keeping it in the dark? Why is it taboo? Why, and you see it even with young women when they start to feel that energy of themselves. We immediately shame teenagers, but that's exactly when spring is happening in their body. And I talk about this. I have a 5-minute video where I talk about flowers being very sexual, because they are literally sexual parts on display.
They're inviting the bees
with pheromones and things. And so it's so complex, because if I want to dress in a way that makes me feel sexually embodied, and it's not ostentatious, but it is sexy, why then are we subject to judgments and criticisms for appearing that way? And where do you go to appear that way? Or embody that energy that isn't just a bedroom? Because what if it's not just about the act of sex? What if it's just the energetic form
feeling
of it?
of sexualness?
Yeah, like,
correct.
We don't tell flowers not to bloom if there's no bees around.
100%. I mean, there are going to be days where you're going to feel this sweatshirt. First time I've seen her not do her hair.
I did it on purpose. I had no makeup on.
First time she walked in, I didn't react. Right? Obviously, there is nothing to react. But first time, and I'm like, in my head, I am fucking proud of you.
Thank you.
Because there is a number of times I've told her, whoa, you just come into my house, girl. And because I've done it, right? And there are times I have dressed up, there are times you have dressed, like most of the times you have dressed. This is the first time, literally. It is our inner thing, that voice and voices, is, in my opinion, and I'm not solving for it, I'm thinking this one out loud, it is actually a mimic of the outer voices that we have heard in the system and society around us. And we think that is a voice we should listen to. There is an other inner voice inside us. That is our self-identity and who we are. Remembering back to our childness, where we want to explore what we think is fun, what we think we want to try, right? I'm working quite a bit with, there are often times where between my husband and my son, I'm actually facilitator. And I have to tap out my husband because he's the older of the two.
Right.
And set aside, I'm like, okay, I'm going to facilitate this right now. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I'm observing from the outside.
Right.
And it has taken a lot of work for me to shut out. And I ask myself a lot of that question. A voice comes in my head. I will ask, is this a inner voice or an outer voice? This is why, this, for those who haven't heard me talk about it, I am trying to write a book, and I would love to officially say, I would like to write this book with you. Okay. The book is called Cop, Coach, Consultant. Okay. And it is about the 3 roles we play, fundamental roles we play for ourselves. And we're going to talk about the self part today.
Yes.
Okay. For ourselves as a mindful parent, mindful in relationships, and as a mindful leader. Okay. So let's talk about the mindful self part. So when voices like this happen, I've become so much more conscious right now, and I've been building this concept for the last 12 and a half plus years since I became a mom, became pregnant, right? I learned about it when I became pregnant, and I've been building on it, working on it.
Data collecting.
Why is this a policing voice? Is it a cop? Is it a policing voice? Is it a bad cop or a good cop? Is it a coaching voice? Is it a consultant voice? What is the voice that I should focus on? And is the cop voice, especially a bad cop voice, the bad cop voice is often coming from external feed into it. So I am slowing down a whole lot more. I will stand when I'm even dressing up sometimes. I am not my size 4 anymore. I used to be a size 4. In my 20s, late 20s, I worked out, I ate really well. I'm not a size 4. I'm between a size 10 and a 12.
That's how I grew up.
Right. And I'm like, I go back and forth between, I love fashion. So I want to go back to size 4. Sometimes I've given you some of my clothes, old clothes, and that don't look old because I just preserved it, right? And I bought very recently a black satin, gorgeous dress from Zara, but it's a size L, right? And I'm like, I love it. I want that.
Yes.
And I had to police. I'm very, very, very conscious of asking myself if a voice pops, and letting my inner voice be my outer action. And it might not be a solution, but let's test this out, especially because we want to write a book for others. Let's test this out. See if you are able to slow down and put yourself on, is that voice a cop, coach, or a consultant? Who do I need to, if it is a cop, is it a bad cop or a good cop? Do I need to be policed? Does that inner child need to be policed? I've been trying to get my husband to not wake up AJ, my son, in the morning.
To let him get up. Because it's
Correct.
his responsibility.
At what point are we going to teach him to take care of that?
Right.
We are there to take care of you, no matter what. But if you keep doing something for that person, guess what?
You're crippling them.
At the end of the day, that's what we are doing. But during that moment, it's very nice because somebody else gets to do it for us. You get too comfortable not doing something for yourself. He has an Alexa in his room. He also has a phone with him. He has an alarm.
Resources.
He has the resources, right? But my husband, I have not woken my son up in a really long time. My husband, I had another conversation. Yes, it's true. And we've had this conversation now many times. My husband this morning did not, because we had another conversation yesterday. So we'll see how much my husband is able to go back and forth, right? And my kid woke up, I think he woke up around 6:55. He didn't come down until 7:07. He struggled to finish eating his breakfast, right? Which I made, but I made sure he was helping with the lunch. No anger, nothing. And I'm like, honey, you know how to put pesto on the bread. You know how to put spinach. Keep going. I'm right here. I will make you grilled cheese. And we have to allow ourselves to be coaches and not cops. And we have to allow ourselves to be good cops and not bad cops. But it comes with self-awareness. And you can't have self-awareness without slowing down. So test it. Tell me. It's not a solution. It's not me dictating anything. It's just us
I'm curious.
trying this, because I really do want to. I'm hoping the way I'm testing it, you can test it.
I'm excited to see.
With your kid, with your mom. How often are you transitioning to catching your mom, and she's an adult, you're an adult, catching your mom and being a cop, saying, I'm going to point out what you're doing wrong now, to when she's never even asked you.
My favorite thing is that, so I keep exploring more and more the behaviors that I have that are similar to being neurodivergent. I'm not diagnosed professionally.
We're all neurodivergent. It's a fantastic thing.
But there's a way that I operate that I ask clarifying questions to people who then get offended by my clarification questions.
Like
they think that if I'm asking you a very specific clarification clarification question, that I'm being condescending or I'm somehow undermining you.
Give me an example.
Like I'll ask you do you mean this in a very specific way where you might have said, and I'm trying to mirror it back to you, like, am I understanding what you're saying? So it's something very simple, like we're gonna do this, 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 and this, and I'm like, are you doing this before, or are you doing this after? And you get frustrated with me for asking you questions about the process instead of just assuming or trying to distill my own perception. Because at a certain point, the way my head works is you say something to me, and then I have options of different ways to go about it.
Correct.
I'm a web thinker, and I've come to that. My mother asks questions, though, in a way, if they're clarification questions, to be an asshole on purpose. So I sometimes will leave strawberries on the counter after I eat some.
Passive aggressive.
Is there a reason the strawberries got left out? And I'm like, is there ever a reason? No, I'm sorry, I forgot, you know? Or, is there a reason you left the oven on if I've taken a pizza out? And so I get it. I wouldn't mind hearing, hey, you left the oven on, I'm gonna shut it off.
Correct.
Just to bring awareness to the fact that I left it on. But she uses those questions to be passive aggressive, and I use those questions.
Have you ever had, so I do get sometimes tend to be lectury, okay, so I apologize ahead of time, but the thing I said previously, you can't always control other people's actions or communication and whatnot. You can try your level best, and especially with parents and children, you have to emulate, right? You lead by example. It's very, very important.
I ask questions.
Right. If you want to help and support your child be authentic, I'm telling you, you'll get so much more out of your life being authentic. Don't be afraid of being authentic. But coming back to this oven question, have you ever had a chance to tell your mom so you can't be emotional and rational at the same time, okay? Especially when it comes to our parents, me and my dad, kind of thing, right? You can't be emotional rational, and obviously with your mom, emotion is the thing that is going to drive. Have you ever had a chance to tell your mom, the way you just phrased that makes me feel like you are feeling I am done. What have I done to make you feel I am done, that I would not have had a reason to leave it? Have you ever had that kind of conversation?
Phrase it that way, but there are times where I've brought it up to her attention, because she'll ask me, and she's very particular about the way you answer her, so she'll bait you with things like, do you want to do this for me?
No, I'm good, thanks.
That's how I will answer it, okay? And I will say, well, no, I don't want to, but if you need help, I will help you. And she gets mad. She's like, just forget about it. And she'll go hurt herself.
Yes.
Before she'll let you help her. But it's just those simple phrasings where, to me, I'm so silly about responding.
It is so interesting you're saying this, okay? I'm going to remove my rose-colored glasses now, okay? I wore it for right. So interesting you're saying this, because a small thing. Me and Hari have been married. I'm not going away from the topic, but I'm going to use an example because I don't want to fix the problems, right? Me and Hari have been together since I was 18. I'm 43. We've actually grown up, and which means you, as individuals, you can choose to find your individuality and see where your wavelengths fit, or you can choose to accommodate each other your entire life, right? And that has been a significant struggle. And there have been many times we were close to getting a divorce, including December of 2022. 2022 was a year that was probably the fucking hardest year in our relationship, and in my personal life, probably one of the darkest, because I was actually figuring out myself and trying to come out of that cave significantly. Right? So there was this small thing we are in a very different place and we're working, right? So there was a small thing that happened about 2 weeks ago max, okay, 2 weeks ago max, where I got out of my bed to go to the restroom, and I wanted to use the restroom outside our bedroom. So now, master, I wanted to use the other one because I think I left my glass right outside our bedroom or something. My husband is like, can you fill, if you, I don't know how he phrased it, but you're going there, so can you fill my water bottle with hot water, warm water? Okay. So I sort of started with a little passive aggressive-ish, and then I caught myself in my own head before I said anything. I came out, I took the water bottle and I said, I hope you are able to acknowledge the ask was not a fair ask. But I am willing to do it. I'm not happy about it, not happy, not sad, but I'm willing to do it. And he's like, there have been many times you've asked me for stuff. I am not disagreeing. And we have to acknowledge when I ask you or you ask me, it is not a fair ask. It is you are so comfortable with me that you're willing to take me for granted to ask me to go out. I am going to a restroom and coming back. Now I have to go to the kitchen, pour water in our kettle, start the kettle, go to the restroom, come back to the kitchen. While I was getting out of, before I even said, is that a fair ask, is he said 110 degrees please, because that's a drinking temperature, right? He wasn't mean, he wasn't nothing, right? I came out of the bathroom. Fortunately for me, it was 108 and I waited 2 more temperatures. I poured. And he's like, you're making mountains out of, and we didn't fight. So one of the things is we've learned much better how to fight.
Right.
To talk.
When to choose.
No, not to yell. It's all fights, but not yelling fights, right? Not getting emotional easily.
Right.
Let's be a little bit more rational about our stuff. So he's like, you're making a big deal about it. And I came back, I gave him the water and I said, let me point out the extra things I did. And I was willing to do it because this was my way of showing love,
right.
And your ask of showing, you wanted me to show love this way, but also understand you were lazy and were not willing to get out from the sheets.
Right.
So your ask was indeed an unfair ask. All I want you to be aware of is that it was an unfair ask. First be aware of it, then acknowledge it. And the next, I didn't tell him to fix it, right? And I said, can you recognize the number of times I go out of my way to say, I'm so sorry, I'm asking this of you, can you please do this for me, kind of language? So we had a conversation that went for a long time to talk about the fucking shit thing of getting water. Because you have to be able to communicate. I didn't want to get irritated about the fact that it felt like you were taking me for granted. And we've had that kind of fight many
As you
times.
will, yes.
And it isn't fruitful. And you know what happened? The next day, my husband came and, you were right. And we are very clear about not right or wrong. Very clear. But he's like, you were right. I should acknowledge it. And I appreciate what you did for me. Because if you don't realize you're asking somebody to do even a small extra thing above and beyond, you will not know to appreciate them. Coming back to parenting. If you make it just because it's available, you wake your child up all the time because you don't want a tardy on theirs. They will not appreciate you actually waking them up. They should think not getting a tardy is important. It's not up to you. A school has set a thing for a child.
Right.
The child is going to school. My kid fights all the time about cribs about going to school. And I said, do you want to just sit at home? What do you want to do? Like, I totally understand the education system is not, Mom, it's boring. I get it, bro.
On purpose. By design.
I get it. It's old school. We haven't fixed it. But God, we have to be able to communicate better before the other person can respond. Because the other day, I don't know what it was. I don't remember the topic, exactly what it was. But there was something that happened while me and Hari were traveling. Okay? And I wanted to provide my perspective.
Okay.
He didn't ask for it, which is when he's treating me as a consultant and reaching out to me to ask me my perspective. I am not his fucking coach, and I shouldn't act like his coach all the time. Just because I'm around you all the time doesn't mean I have a right to point out what, even in a nice way.
And that's important as a boundary.
Correct, right? And I'm definitely not going to police you. But yet, we are in a relationship and we are together all the time, and we have to figure out a way to grow in a relationship. So there needs to be comfort in being able to offer
An
observation. So literally, I had to think. I had to first and foremost practice the fucking words in my head to some extent, right? I had to ask myself, is this worth talking about? Should I point this out? What is going to be the value of it? Why do I have to be the one to say it? Etc, 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 etc. Like, it took me time. I don't react anymore. I take my time to take all of this into consideration before responding. So I told him, I didn't start the topic at all. I started with, honey, we've been together for a really long time. Of all the people in this world, every single one who have been very close to you, I am probably the only person who has observed you the most intimately in several situations.
Right.
Can we acknowledge the fact that as an individual, we can't observe ourselves from an external perspective, and we have those blinders within ourselves. Can I, as an outside observation person, offer something I just saw? I asked permission.
Yes.
I gave context, and I asked permission to offer. Would you consult me on this if I tell you, as a person observing you, I have something to offer? You don't need to take it. I don't need to feel bad you don't take it. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you don't take it. You're your fucking individual. And I offered it. He thanked me for it.
Okay.
There, trust me, evolution in our relationship.
Right.
But the thing I noticed the most was I had to improve on my own comprehension and communication.
Delivery.
And stop taking for granted that if I say something, you have to listen, you have to act on it, and you have to change.
That's huge.
You don't have to. And I'm telling you, it has improved our relationship significantly because I improved on myself significantly.
It's so nuanced to have that approach, because I am definitely guilty of, without invitation, imposing my observation on certain things, or I will question it. Like, can I ask you, why do you do that? I like to ask that question, but there are some times where it doesn't come from like a pure place. I know that. There are some times where I'm like
frustrated and you want to give a point of view, correct?
Not even like, well, I want to know how your brain got you there. I need to know for my own comfort.
But that's it. No.
but when you want to preserve somebody and have harmony and appreciation in your relationship, those things can they're like microaggressions. They build up.
At 100%.
Right?
Raindrops create a storm. The reason we did that, the thing you just said, is because that was what was emulated in our world. And it still gets emulated in social media. We think we have every right to comment about every person's action. And it started at home. It starts at home.
It does.
It is a parent who does that to the child. We all do it. Which is why I'm writing the book, Cop, Coach, Consultant. I want us to co-write it. I'm hoping you can apply it and test it. I have done it.
I'm so humbled and honored.
My husband is so trying it.
Right.
You're a very good communicator.
I appreciate that.
Than I am.
I try really hard.
She's far better than ChatGPT, I will tell you that.
You know what though? I feel validated because I tried some of the AI tools on Canva recently because I was just sitting there like,
oh shit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my god, I completely forgot I had a meeting, yo.
Oh no.
I'm sure my person is waiting. Oh, all good.
Okay.
He actually said he's not able to join the meeting, so we can wrap this up in the next 5-10 minutes.
Okay. Brilliant. I've now lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. Oh, but I was trying out the AI tools. That's right.
Yes.
And I hated every version of the like rewrite that the AI gave me. And so and to be fair, there were some word combinations that I enjoyed and adopted into what I had written, but it gave me so much more validation. I'm always surprised to feel recognized for my ability to put words together. But so much in the last 2 years has it been brought to my attention that the way I weave language is somewhat gifted. And so I'm really excited to be a part of it, to even be acknowledged that way. I'm really excited to read your work. I want to talk about
I have some synopsis of this, right? You heard me say these things. I want you to start helping me pull it together. But oh my, what is this?
It's a tiny booklet. I've had it for years. It was a gift.
So it's
a print. It's a tiny book.
Okay. So it says not sorry. Okay. 2 faces. One looks feminine, one looks male, but both looks actually androgynous. And it says it's by Alicia Cardell. Okay, so let's open it up. For asking for what I want, hands raised. Okay, for wanting to feel safe, speaking that out. For saying no, for changing my mind, for crying, for taking time for myself. Before we women open our mouths, our words feel like an imposition rather than a contribution, and thus feel the need to say, I am sorry, to cushion the impact. In fact, sometimes it seems like women apologize for just existing. Sydney Beveridge.
So it's a small booklet that I received as a part of a gift years ago. And I've kept it forever. And it's just a small 1-page piece of art that ends up turning into a book.
Oh, there you go.
Oh no, here you go. This way. Very curious way to do a book. And then I wanted to talk.
Is this you gifting this to me, or is this you
showing
it to you?
No, I'm going to keep it. If I find another copy, I'll give it to you.
The number of times I have even said to myself and to others, you don't need to apologize. You don't need to say sorry.
No
this is beautiful.
Isn't it?
Especially this last one. Before we women open our mouths, our words feel like an imposition rather than a contribution, even in our own heads. And thus feel the need to say, I am sorry, to cushion the impact. even in our own heads about our own thoughts for our own self. In fact, sometimes it feels like women apologize for just existing. I mean, Sydney, genius. Thank you for writing words in a way I could not have written. This is yeah, it speaks to how I have felt.
It's powerful because it is. Because so many times when we have something to say, if it does fill up the space, because there are words you can say that suck all the air out of a room. If they're necessary, I don't want to feel bad for saying it. But if not me, then who? I'm always asking myself that question.
And we have been asked to practice, whether we like it or not, saying sorry so much that it has become a habit, and it is not a good habit, right? I was telling AJ this morning about him having water again, coaching in this moment, and I said, honey, plants can't grow without water, and you are growing. You're a living human being. You need to have water in the morning. And I said, just like you are brushing your teeth, do you know why you wake up and brush your teeth first thing and go to the bathroom? And I said, the only reason you're able to do it is I was there helping you practice. And this is, you have to put effort and practice to making it a habit. Same thing with working out, moving your body rather, and trying very hard to process before you say sorry, because we have been ingrained to feel like our existence is less than, when our existence is the only reason there is even existence.
And I think that's where we when we're starting about self-reflection, like what is like our contribution? We aren't just here to be cogs in a wheel necessarily, even though that is some parts of it, but and the small ways that we impact each other's lives every day. So I had 3 topics that I want to talk about for books. The Devil's Highway, which highlights what happens at our border here, the south border with Mexico. This is an account of men that tried to cross in Arizona, but it just sheds light on the culture that's been historically around the border here. And there's a few other books back here called Dead in Their Tracks by John Anorino, Down by the River by Charles Bowden, Coyotes, when we want to talk about human trafficking, by Ted Conover, Border by Lila Downs, and then Hardline, Life and Death on the U.S.-Mexican Border by Ken Ellingwood. This one is called The Devil's Highway. It's a true story by Luis Alberto Urrea. Really engaging. It'll entice anyone who's got like a true crime kind of mindset. This is a book I've talked about incessantly, and when we talk about policing, this is a book.
You read this?
Yeah, well, I'm reading it. I'm in the process of reading this one.
Got it.
I have read this one.
You do this till we are free? Okay.
Yes, We Do This Till We Free Us by Miriam Kaba. It's abolitionist organizing and transforming justice. So what she talks about in here is how our current carceral system and policing systems don't rehabilitate or create safe spaces for change, and that if we organize to abolish the current carceral systems, we have to build the systems to transition. And it talks about hope being a discipline.
You got to practice hope.
This one you can't read fast. This one takes an incredible amount of digestion and absorption time, but it's so powerful. We Do This Till We Free Us.
Is this your personal copy?
Yes.
Can I hold on to it?
Yes, you can. And then this one is about ancient feminine struggle and the policing of bodies down to our reproductive systems. This one you can't read fast. It's called Caliban and the Witch, Women, the Body, and Primitive Accumulation. So it also talks about how policing the female reproductive system is an economical tactic as well.
Have you finished
really
reading
interesting.
this?
Yeah, so I've had this book for years.
Okay, so I will take both of those. We'll put it here.
Okay.
We need to create our own together space, which I think eventually we can. We need to engage with Gabby a little bit more. If it's not Gabby, somebody else who can help bring this to, you know, out there. I am, especially this gap that we have had of over a month and a half has made me strongly realize the amount of control we have for our own voices, and we have to stop our own head from not getting this out there.
Right.
We don't need to overly market it or whatnot, but I think social media can take care of itself if it's the right kind of voice and if we have interesting things to say. And I truly, in my core, believe we have interesting things to say. So we have to find a way to make this happen. Let's find the right people to help make this happen.
Yeah, I want to start.
Because you're a voice, I'm a voice, but we are not the social media marketing people.
No, I've tried a little bit, but thank you all for being here. If you are here with us, if you're soon to join us, my wish is, as we head into this Lunar New Year and into a new spring, into new growth, that we do it with the best that we can and with the utmost love. So until next time.
There are times you should wear rosy colored glasses so that, you know, you can look at the beautiful world in front of you, and there are times you need to take them off to understand the hurt and pain and the people behind it. So wishing you all a wonderful 2024, wishing you continue in this journey with us, and ciao.
Adios.
Oh my god, this one